The strength of popular movements. Popular movements have demonstrated impressive strength in the 21st century, able to challenge governments, influence decisions, and unite millions of people around common causes. These movements emerge when voices in society come together to seek justice, freedom, and social change. In recent years, we have seen these mobilizations reach unprecedented scales, directly impacting public policies, shaping the behavior of leaders, and guiding the direction of entire nations. Imagine, for example, the speed with which a local protest can spread on social media, generating a wave of global support. From the fight for racial equality to climate change protests, popular movements reflect a common desire: the will to build a fairer world. And this has produced practical results, with laws being re-evaluated and leaders being pressured to listen to the people's voice. In this video, we will explore how these movements have become essential in shaping the current political landscape, influencing decisions that affect millions worldwide. We'll understand how collective power can transform realities and discuss the role each of us can play in these changes. Stay tuned to discover how, together, we can make a difference and use our voices to build a better future. The origin and evolution of popular movements. The popular movements we see today with such intensity have roots in social struggles spanning centuries. In the 20th century, these movements became more organized and visible, particularly through social and political revolutions that marked history, such as the Civil Rights Movement in the United States and the fight against apartheid in South Africa. Each of these movements brought urgent issues to light and inspired generations to stand up against injustices. The influence of these movements intensified with the advent of instant communication and globalization. In the early 2000s, the Arab Spring marked a turning point, demonstrating how digital mobilization could challenge authoritarian regimes and draw the world's attention to local causes. What started as small group protests quickly gained momentum, crossing borders and inspiring a wave of demonstrations in different countries. This evolution shows that over time, popular movements have shifted from being merely local mobilizations to becoming global phenomena. With the rise of the internet and social media, they gained an unprecedented capacity to organize, spread messages, and connect people worldwide. Today, anyone with a smartphone can join a cause, support movements, and contribute to change. And this has only increased these groups' power to pressure governments and transform public policies, making their voices resonate worldwide. Why are popular movements crucial in the 21st century? Today, popular movements wield an influence unimaginable just a few decades ago. In an increasingly connected society, the pressure exerted by collective mobilizations has become a powerful political and social force. These movements are vital because they represent a form of direct democracy, where the population organizes to demand answers from their governments and institutions, often challenging power structures that seem distant or inaccessible. The importance of these movements in the 21st century goes beyond mere demonstrations. They play a key role in bringing visibility to issues often ignored by leaders and mainstream media. Topics such as climate change, minority rights, and social inequality, for example, are widely discussed and promoted by these movements, which raise public awareness and stimulate global debates. When the population mobilizes, governments and large corporations are forced to react. In many cases, popular demands lead to policy changes, new legislation, and even leadership shifts. The Me Too movement, which gave voice to millions of victims of harassment and abuse, is a prime example of how mobilization can directly impact society, encouraging legal reforms and cultural changes across various industries. These current movements show that in an era of instant information and global connectivity, society's unity is one of the most effective tools for promoting tangible change. The impact of social media on popular mobilization. With the advancement of social media, popular movements gained a new dynamic in mobilization and reach. Tools like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook have transformed the way people organize and share their causes. With a simple click, ideas and messages are widely disseminated, attracting supporters from different regions and cultures who follow and engage in causes physically distant but close in values and ideals. Social media has given popular movements a powerful platform to amplify their voices. Hashtags like Black Lives Matter and Fridays for Future have become global symbols, connecting millions of people worldwide to a single message. These platforms not only increased reach, but also the speed of mobilization. What once took weeks or months to gain notoriety can now spread in hours, turning local causes into global phenomena that directly pressure governments and institutions. However, this reliance on social media also presents challenges. While the internet allows for rapid information dissemination, it also opens the door to the spread of fake news and manipulation. Popular movements can be undermined by false information, distortions, and misinformation campaigns, which weaken the legitimacy of causes and divide supporters. Therefore, it's essential for movements to prioritize verifying and spreading accurate information to maintain public trust and engagement. Positive impacts of popular movements. Popular movements have the power to create real and significant changes in society. Throughout history, they have been responsible for progress in various areas such as civil rights, social justice, and gender equality. In the 21st century, these movements continue to play a crucial role in the fight for a fairer world where everyone, regardless of race, gender, or social class, has their rights respected. One of the greatest benefits of these movements is their ability to bring attention to issues often neglected by political and economic elites. When well-organized, popular mobilization can pressure governments to take action. For example, the Black Lives Matter movement has been fundamental in discussions on structural racism in the United States and other parts of the world. It not only highlighted police violence against black populations, but also led to concrete changes, such as public security reforms and racial equality policies in several cities and countries. Another positive impact of popular movements is their ability to unite people around a common cause. The fight for climate change, championed by young activists like Greta Thunberg, is a clear example of how a global mobilization can be created to pressure governments and corporations to take measures in defense of the environment. Millions of young people, students, and activists worldwide joined to demand more robust action against climate change, and this pressure has sparked discussions on new environmental policies, more investment in renewable energy, and strengthened international climate agreements. Additionally, popular movements are essential for strengthening democracy, giving voice to groups historically marginalized or silenced. They empower individuals and foster active participation in the political process. Citizens' active participation in popular movements also strengthens civil society and builds a culture of political and social engagement. Negative impacts and limitations of popular movements. While popular movements play a crucial role in the fight for social justice and political change, it's also essential to recognize their limitations and potential negative consequences. Not all popular movements achieve their goals peacefully or efficiently, and sometimes their actions can produce unforeseen side effects that negatively affect society. One of the main challenges is radicalization. In some cases, movements that initially aim to promote peace and justice may become more intense, eventually resorting to violence as a form of protest. The use of aggressive methods can paradoxically alienate public support, weakening the movement's legitimacy and even allowing opponents to discredit the causes it defends. An example of this is seen in the violent demonstrations that followed the protests of the Yellow Vest movement in France. Although the movement started with a legitimate appeal against tax increases, some acts of violence undermined public sympathy and the movement's effectiveness. Furthermore, popular movements may struggle to remain organized and cohesive over long periods. The lack of clear leadership or well-defined objectives can lead to internal fragmentation, with different groups competing for the movement's direction. This can weaken actions and make mobilization less effective. An example of this is the Arab Spring, where despite an initial wave of successful protests, the lack of a clear strategy after the fall of authoritarian governments led to instability and, in some cases, the strengthening of military regimes. Another point to consider is the risk of misinformation and manipulation. Although social media has been a powerful tool for organizing movements, it also facilitates the spread of fake news and misinformation campaigns. This can generate confusion and polarization, diverting attention from the real issues motivating movements and leading to a distortion of their intentions. Popular movements, therefore, need to be vigilant about the accuracy of the information circulating within their networks to ensure their message is clear and reliable. Therefore, while popular movements play a vital role in driving social change, they also face challenges that can undermine their effectiveness and lead to unintended consequences. It is crucial for these movements to navigate these limitations, maintaining a focus on their objectives and the integrity of their messages. The influence of popular movements in international conflicts. Popular movements are not confined to the internal affairs of a single country. They often transcend borders and influence the international stage in surprising ways. The global mobilization power provided by social media has enabled local causes to gain international attention, with external pressures sometimes being as effective as internal efforts in resolving conflicts or promoting political changes. For instance, the Arab Spring was not merely a series of internal revolts in Arab countries. It had profound international implications. As protests spread across the Middle East and North Africa, diplomatic relations between the region's governments and the West shifted significantly. International leaders, such as those in the United States and the European Union, were compelled to take a stance, either supporting or condemning the collapsing regimes, which directly influenced foreign policy decisions. Moreover, popular movements often shape international perceptions of critical issues, such as human rights and democratic governance. The hashtag Free Hong Kong movement, for example, gained momentum on social media and spread worldwide, advocating for democracy in Hong Kong and generating substantial international pressure on China and its allies. This global attention forced governments to reassess their diplomatic positions on Hong Kong's protests and repression, often prompting policy shifts or public statements. The influence of popular movements in international conflicts is also seen in their ability to foster solidarity among countries. The fight against climate change, for example, is a global issue where popular movements from different nations come together to pressure world leaders into adopting more aggressive policies. Mobilizations led by figures like Greta Thunberg and organized protests by youth groups worldwide have played a significant role in putting climate change on the agenda of global powers, prompting discussions about the responsibilities of wealthy countries and solutions for developing nations. In summary, popular movements possess a unique ability to impact the international arena, turning local issues into global concerns and pressuring international leaders to make decisions that often involve changes in foreign policy and diplomatic relations. The future of popular movements, trends, and challenges. The future of popular movements is promising, but also filled with challenges. With a rapidly changing global landscape and the evolution of communication technologies, predicting the next significant movement that will dominate the streets or social media is challenging. However, we can identify some trends that will likely shape the future of this powerful tool for social transformation. One growing trend is the increased involvement of younger generations. Young activists, in particular, are becoming central figures in popular movements worldwide, bringing renewed perspectives and a sense of urgency to issues such as climate change, civil rights, and gender equality. Digitally connected youth can spread messages on a global scale, and digital amplification will become even more crucial as social platforms become more accessible and dynamic. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and blockchain could create safer and more effective ways to organize future movements. On the other hand, increased digital surveillance and control are issues that could challenge the freedom and effectiveness of popular movements. In many countries, especially those with authoritarian regimes, internet and social media monitoring has intensified, with sophisticated systems being developed to identify and suppress activists. This type of repression can discourage active participation in protests, but may also prompt movements to adapt, using new tools and communication methods to protect themselves and continue advocating for their causes. Additionally, as social demands become more complex and multifaceted, it will be increasingly difficult for popular movements to maintain a unified, clear message. Global movements, for example, face the challenge of integrating different cultures, needs, and worldviews. The quest for fair and effective solutions to issues like economic inequality or the climate crisis will require stronger international cooperation and a more systemic approach. Nonetheless, despite these challenges, popular movements will continue to be a transformative force in the 21st century. They have the power to shape policies, influence governments, and create a more engaged, inclusive, and just society. The future of popular movements will undoubtedly be marked by new forms of organization, a broader diversity of voices, and perhaps an even more crucial role in global politics.